Hi, this is part 2 of this week's class, which will begin seated. So if it's comfortable for you, you can sit on the floor at home, or if you've got a comfy chair, you can just perch on the edge of the chair. Or if you need to be propped up, seated on the floor, grab a cushion or a block or something just to lift your bottom up slightly. So I'll show you sideways on the first exercise. So you're sitting tall on your sit bones. Long frog if that's comfortable for you, so the knees and hips are open, feet as close in or far away as you need to maintain as much length through your spine. If that is uncomfortable, your more sort of cross-legged position is fine too if you prefer that. And if it's tough for your hip flexors, do prop your bottom up, as I mentioned before, with block or some cushions or a pillow at home. So first off, we're just trying to find your sit bones. So have a little wiggle and a shimmy around and just find those sit bones and just see if you can begin to lengthen the spine up as tall as you can away from the mat. If you were attending class recently, we did some work when we used the magic circle, so pressing down to get that sense of growing taller. So using that kind of imagery in mind will help you try and just find as much length as you can to begin with in this position. So once we've found that length, just begin with a couple of breaths. So you can take a breath in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Try to fill up the back and sides of your lungs as you breathe in. And that long breath out. We're going to just do a little bit of a waist twist. So you could either have the hands across your chest or in a kind of Cossack position here. So I'll show you both. So hands across your chest, sitting really tall. So the next time you breathe out, center and lengthen, just let your eyes, head, neck and ribs spiral over to one side. Try to sit as tall as you can, and then we'll inhale to come back again. So breath and center, eyes, head, neck, ribs, and spiral over to the side, and then inhale to come back again. So either stay with that arm position, or the Cossack arms, just have the elbows slightly lower than your shoulders and forearms lightly pressing in towards each other. Just careful with this one that you don't overdo the rotation with the neck. It's really about your thoracic rotation and trying not to shift or shear side to side just to really get a lovely spiralling through the spine. So grow as tall as you can, breath and center, ribs, head, neck as you spiral over, breath into there, and gliding back again. So you can think ribs, head, neck, breath in to come back. Or the other version we did with the arms the previous way, you can lead with the eyes, head, ribs. So just sequential movement, whether you're starting from the top or the mid-back. Okay? So I'm going to try the other way now. So we have eyes, head, neck, ribs, and then inhale to come back. So breath and center, eyes, head, neck, ribs, and then inhale to come back from there. And then releasing the arms, have a little wiggle around if you need to. So sitting tall. So option 1, we're going to keep a neutral spine. So this is more appropriate for those of you that come to my Monday, Friday, 10:30 class, or if you have osteoporosis or low back pain. So try and keep that spine really neutral. And we're going to just do a small hip hinge forward, the same kind of hinge movement that you do when you do a squat. So as you breathe out, center, grow tall, just hinge forward from the hips, breath in there, and as you breathe out, stacking back up. So keep that sense of length and energy out through the crown of your head. So breath and center as you hinge, and then inhale to come back up again. So you're not forcing yourself too far. You might feel a little stretch in the sit bones. So stay with that one, definitely for osteoporosis, low back pain. If those aren't an issue for you, we're going to just do a spine stretch forward prep, but we're only really moving from the upper back. We're not going into a pelvic tilt. So stay as tall as you can, hands on your shins, and you can inhale, chin tuck, exhale, just start to peel the upper back down. Let the hands slide down your shins, keeping that tummy engaged. Breath when you get there. And then you breathe out and stack yourself back up with length. So you inhale, chin tuck, and exhale. Breath there. as you breathe out, stacking back up again. So you can stay with that, or you can combine the previous two, which would be that you come down with that inhale, chin tuck, exhale, spine stretch forward, pause with where the arms are, and just see if you can lengthen that spine towards that neutral hinge, and then keeping that neutral hinge, you come up tall. So you inhale, chin tuck, exhale, glide down, keeping that length and lift up and over. Pause with the arms, lengthen the spine to neutral, and then coming up tall. Okay, and then I'm going to swivel around this way so I can see you, and we'll do a seated side reach. So you could keep the legs in long frog. I'm just worried I might fall off, so I'll just move my legs to a more sort of just seated cross-leg position. So arms out to the side. Again, just try to check you're not shifting off to one side or rotating at all. So everything is stacked and tall as you can. Move that out of the way. So just fingertips lightly towards the floor. So for your side reach, we're just going to inhale, let the arm and palm turn in and glide up. And then exhale up and over. So your fingertips crawl away, but keep as much length as you can through here. And this shoulder as soft as possible. Breath into the open side and try and keep that hip anchored down, and as you breathe out, we'll begin to snap back up again. Okay. So we'll inhale, float the arm and palm up, exhale up and over, breath into there, and as you breathe out, we'll begin to snap back up. So inhale arm, and exhale over, breath into that open side, and as you breathe out, stacking back up again. So I'm going to do one more of those to each side. So inhale up and exhale over. Breath into there. And as you breathe out, stacking back up. And then gliding back up from there. If you need to shake out shoulders or shake out your legs or your hips, please do. And then we're going to come into our side lying position. So that's where you will need bigger cushion or pillow that you might have handy, and you may be more comfortable to have the ball between your knees. Definitely advisable for osteoporosis or any issues with your sacrum, just to keep the legs more hip width rather than abducting the thighs together. So we're going to come into chair position on your side. Make sure you've got enough of your cushion or pillow behind you to support your head, and possibly using a ball or small cushion between the knees. So keeping that waist long and lifted, everything stacked, so try not to scrunch up the shoulders, hip over hip, and as much length through the spine in this position as you can. We're going to go into arm openings. So you can inhale, open that arm to the ceiling, look at your hand. You may need to nudge cushions back a little further, keep the hips stacked, and as you breathe out, let the ribs spiral back. I'm not just flopping the arm, I'm rotating the upper back. Breath into there, and as you breathe out, ribs bring you back, and arm comes to close. So we'll inhale, open, and then exhale to rotate. Breath in there, and as you breathe out, gliding back again. Okay, so you can do between probably 8 to 10 of these. I've done a couple, so I'm going to do about 4 more with you. So inhale, open, and exhale to rotate. Breath in, and as you breathe out, gliding back again. So just checking, shoulder hasn't crept up, pelvis stays steady. You're keeping that connection of arm into the shoulder, and you're just letting your gaze follow your hand. I'm going to do one more here, but feel free to do some extra ones at home. And then once you're stacked back up, it might feel nice to just inhale, reach and roll that arm and your upper body forward, and then exhale, just rock. So just a few times. It's not a very big range of movement, but hopefully it was quite good to just release the shoulder and that upper back there. From here, we'll do a little bit of side leg work. So you can either leave the cushion arrangement that you've got, and if so, you might want to just lightly interlock the hands and press them together to keep that length and release through your centre. Otherwise, you could extend the underneath arm away. I'm just moving equipment out of the way. I'm trying to drop it on the floor just yet. So extending that underneath arm, palm up if that's okay. Cushion or two on your arm for your head, and just nudge the feet back so they're in line with your bottom. and we're going to oyster. So that top hand, if you haven't got the big cushion, can just be lightly in front of your ribs or your waist, or hands on your hip. So hip stack, shoulders soft and neck long. And as you breathe out and centre, opening out into your oyster, and then inhale to close. So after a few, you should just feel some activity in your glute med on the outer side of your bottom. So the thing to work on at home is just making sure the pelvis isn't rolling back at all. And if that's tricky to establish, maybe you could just lean yourself against a sofa or something so you get that little bit of feedback. So with all of the side leg, you could do between 6 to 8 of each. I might just do slightly less as I'm going through it with you. And then after however many oyster you're going to do, we're going to come to chair position, and we're going to just do 5 of some other side leg exercises you might want to include at home. So the next one we will do is your lift and lower. So we're going to lengthen that top leg away in line with your hip. Either keep the foot flexed throughout, or you can softly point the foot. So hand could be here or in front of you again, but try not to hunch up there. So I'm going to inhale, lift that leg as far as I can without scrunching up the waist with the soft point of the foot. Exhale down with a flex. So inhale, lift with a point, exhale down with a flex. Inhale, lift with a point, exhale down with a flex. Inhale, lift with a point, exhale down with a flex. And apologies for the hole in my sock that I've just noticed. Good. So around 5, have a breather if you need to. And then we're going to do our 5 circles. So lengthen away, softly point the foot. So breathing, scooping, stirring that thigh in the hip socket about 5 times each way. If you want to, you can do a little more, but we're doing quite a lot of the side leg work. This is the penultimate one. Good. So just try and open up the front of that hip if you can, and then once you've evened up back into chair, and if that's enough, just have a little rub there and a breather while I talk through the next exercise. Otherwise, we're just going to do forward and back as well. So you can lengthen that top leg away in line with your hip, foot flexed, and as you breathe out, centre kick. Inhale, soft point, exhale back. Do open that hip as much as you can without arching your back. So inhale, flex, exhale, kick. Inhale, point, exhale back. So check the shoulder, keep that length. So at all points, just careful as you come forward, the pelvis doesn't go into pelvic tilt, and as you go back, the lumbar spine doesn't arch. And when you've done your 5-ish, either come into a quad stretch at the end, if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, just release and give your bottom a rub. So then after that sequence, we'll go on to the other side. So I'm going to just turn top and tail so I can still see you. So gather whatever bits and pieces that you need. So the big and small cushion, maybe a ball or cushion between the knees. So it's chair position for your arm openings. So for your arm openings, you could do up to about 8 to 10 if you've got time. Otherwise, I'm going to do about 5 or 6 with you. So stacking back up in that chair position, plenty of cushion to support your head, shoulders stacked, ribs lifted, waist long and lifted, and everything else well organised. Okay, so once you're ready, we'll inhale, open the arm up to the ceiling, look at your hand, and then exhale, begin to spiral back, breath into there, and as you breathe out, ribs bring you back, and arm comes to close. So inhale, opening up, and then exhale, spiraling back, breath into there, and as you breathe out, ribs bring you back, and arm comes to close. So all the while, just try and keep that shoulder softening away from your ears. You're only going as far back as you're able to rotate rather than leading with the arm. Keeping that length through the waist. And just spiraling open that upper back. I'm just going to do one more with you. Okay, and then from there you can just do a few of your reach and roll that top arm, your upper body forward and back. Maybe 4 or so, see how you go. So for your side leg, If you need to leave the cushions as they are, that's fine. Just maybe bring the hands together. Alternatively, get rid of your big cushion. I'm just going to try not to knock everything on the floor. Extend that underneath arm, palm up if you can, with your little cushion or a folded towel just on your arm for your head. And get rid of the ball. I'll try and add that to my stash at the end here. And then we'll go into oyster first of all. So the legs are stacked, but the feet are in line with your bottom, still keeping the waist long and lifted. So if you're in this position, just careful that shoulder doesn't creep up and the hand can be near the ribs, near the waist. So hips are stacked, and as you breathe out centre, we're going to open that top leg without rolling the pelvis, and inhale to close. So breath and centre as you open up, and inhale to close. So with the side leg, I'm going to do about 5 or 6 of each of these with you. You could do a few more if you wanted to, or maybe 5 or 6 would be enough too. I think I'm almost there with the oyster. And then after your last one, you could just bring the legs forward to your chair position, keeping that waist long and lifted. And we're going to do lift and lower. So we're going to lengthen that top leg away in line with your hip. Either keep the foot flexed throughout, or you have a soft point as you come up and a flex as you go down. So you can inhale, lift up with a soft point, exhale down with a flex, just to hip height. So inhale, lift with a point, exhale down with a flex. So inhale up, point, exhale down, flex, inhale up, point, exhale down, flex. And as usual, my counting isn't brilliant, so I might have done a few extra there, but perhaps you'll be counting a bit more carefully at home. So the next one we did was circles. So I'm still in chair position, and we're going to just lengthen that top leg away in line with the hip, toes softly pointed. Keep breathing, scooping, and I'm stirring the leg in the hip socket without disturbing the pelvis around 5 times each way. And then reversing. Still breathing, still scooping. And then softening back down. And the final one, if you can, is your forward and back. So I'm going to lengthen that top leg away in line with the hip, foot flexed. So breathe out centre, we're going to kick forward. Inhale, soft point, exhale, sweeping that leg back. Inhale, flex, exhale, and kick forward. Inhale, point, exhale, back. So throughout, just making sure as you kick forward, we're not letting the pelvis tilt. And as you sweep that leg back, we're keeping the spine completely neutral. I think we've got just a couple more to do. The leg's probably tired now to do. Work hard to keep it at hip height. On your final one, if it's comfortable, just release back to a kind of loose, comfortable, open quad stretch, again without arching your back. Otherwise, just release down and give it a little bit of a rub. And then if you need to from here, you might want to go into a glute and piriformis stretch. So possibly, as I've mentioned, my short arms, it sometimes helps me to prop up a little bit more to keep my tailbone neutral, but you might not need to do that. So it is knee fold, one leg, keep the pelvis as square as I can, turn out from the hip, so that might be enough of a stretch, and if so, leave it there. If not, just make sure your centre's engaged to draw the other leg up, and you can take a few breaths in your glute and piriformis stretch. So just let the muscles lengthen and release. And once they have, you can lower and untangle. And then other side, knee fold, turn out from the hip, not the knee, and then you're gliding up, and then take a few breaths into there. And then once you've finished a few breaths there, just untangling and releasing. And then we're going to come onto your tummy next, and we'll do dart, do our upper back extension. So sometimes if your back isn't that comfortable lying on your tummy, you might want a cushion or a towel just underneath to give your lumbar spine a bit of support. If your feet get crampy, prone, maybe roll up a towel just to put under the front of your ankle just to help with that if you need it. You might not need it, but it's just an option. So for your dart, you can either keep the legs parallel, which is what I'll start with, or you could add the big squeeze of the legs. I'm going to start with the legs parallel, trying to make myself as long as possible as I can on the mat. Curl your head in so your forehead's on the mat, and you might need an extra towel or cushion under there. Arms down by your side. So breath and centre. I'm nudging a marble with my nose as I begin to glide up the upper back. Let the arms and palms turn in. Breath into there. So you breathe out, lengthening and releasing back down. So breath and centre. Nudge a marble with your nose as you begin to glide up. Let the arms and palms turn in. Breath into there. And then lengthening and releasing back down. The big squeeze part, if you wanted to add that on, is you have the toes together, heels apart, and I'll just do that on its own. So as you breathe out and centre, you connect the legs together. So you've got that sense of the thighs and the glute wrapping round, and you keep that connection as you lift up into the rest of your dart. So if you want to add that on, you can do. So I'm back in my dart position. So breath and centre, maybe connect the legs, nudge a marble with your nose as you begin to glide up. So not too high that it's into your low back, it should just be your upper back extension. Breath there, lengthening and releasing. In class, some of us have been adding on that we just spiral the arms forward a little, so if that's comfortable for you, you're welcome to do that as well. I'm going to just do one more. And then afterwards, if it's comfortable, sit back into rest position. Otherwise, come onto your back and you can loosely hug the knees in towards your chest. I'm going to come up onto my knees. Feet together, knees apart. You might be more comfortable to put a pillow behind your knees before you reverse back into rest. So toes together, knees apart, and just releasing down. If you need to have your head up, another pillow, that's fine. Otherwise, just release down and take a few wide breaths to just let the ribs expand against your legs. And then if 4-point kneeling is okay for you, we're going to come up and do a little bit of 4-point kneeling. So I'm going to swivel around the other way. Hopefully, knock everything off. So 4-point kneeling, arms under shoulders, knees under hips. So press the floor away to really get that connection of the shoulder blades around the ribs. Try not to lock out elbows. Might help to spread out the fingers and draw the fingertips up a little bit. And sometimes it helps to maybe widen the arms or have them at a slightly longer diagonal away from you. So just first off, pressing the floor, making sure you're neutral. So we're not dipped, we're not rounded, we're completely neutral to begin with. So first off, we're going to do our tabletop leg. So breath and centre, we'll just slide one leg away. Keep the pelvis as square as you can. If you want to, you can lift, but try not to dip into that low back or shift elsewhere. So breath and centre, sliding the other leg, hover up and try not to dip in your low back. So just stick with that. Some of you, if weight bearing on the wrist is a problem, you can definitely come onto elbows, either in this position or hands together, so keeping your bum in the air as you slide and possibly lift. So still just avoid sinking into the shoulders. And then if the 4-point kneeling position was okay, you can maybe add the opposite arm, or just try the arms on their own first. So staying neutral, breath and centre, you can float the arm away. I'm just trying not to whack into the equipment. Okay, and then if that's okay, you can do the slide, maybe the opposite arm as well. Just working on keeping that stability and trying not to shift over side to side as you go. And when you've evened up there, we're just having a little rest stretch. If the 4-point kneeling position wasn't good for you, I suggest that you come onto your back and you do the starfish with the opposite leg slide, opposite ribcage closure instead. And I'm going to do cat, and you can always do a standing version of that or a roll down, but we'll just go through our normal 4-point kneeling cat first of all. So arms under shoulders, knees under hips again, pressing the floor away. Okay, so breath and centre, just begin to curl the tailbone up and just rounding the spine into a lengthened C curve. Try not to let the shoulders creep up to your ears. Maybe you can get that sense of curling the head in, curling the tailbone in a little bit more. Breath when you're there, and then lengthen both ends away from each other, but we're just returning to neutral. So let those sit bones widen. So breath and centre, rounding up into that C shape. Breath, keep scooped, unravelling back to your neutral position. You could also do this on elbows if that's better for wrists. So you could come onto elbows, still keep your bottom in the air, and then rounding into that C shape without hunching, and then rippling back to neutral. With either of those, you might want to add a sort of rocking movement that you can round up into that C shape, reverse the spine back, keep the arms and legs still and just ripple your spine into neutral, similar to the version we did seated earlier on, and then you bring that spine back in neutral. So you round up, reverse, neutral, and return. So round, reverse, neutral, and return. And then when you finish, just sit back into rest again or come off of your hands as you prefer. You give them a shake if you need to. And then we'll do a little bit of standing work to finish off. So for your standing work, I'm not sure if I can get all of me in shot, but we'll give it a go. So let's do some Pilates squats, and then maybe some roll downs. And I meant to say with cat, some of you, if you don't do spinal flexion for osteoporosis or low back pain, you could just keep the spine in neutral and rock backwards and then return. So rather than adding the rounding part of the movement would be a really good alternative for you. So for your squat, we're going to just try and stand neutral, so hopefully you'll see some of me. So legs and feet are parallel, weight even through both feet and arms down by your side. And then breath and centre, I'm going to sink back, so weight onto my heels, keep the spine neutral, the toes might lift, keep the legs aligned and the arms can float up, neck is long, and then inhale, gliding back up. Breathing out, centering, sinking back to that squat shape, let the sit bones widen, and then pressing yourself back up. I'll just do one more of those. Alternatively, if roll downs are something you normally do in class, it might be a good thing to work on at home. So still standing well, lengthening up, so ground your feet to grow taller, and then you can inhale, chin tuck, exhale, begin to peel down one vertebrae at a time, so lifting up and over, up and over. If the hamstrings are tight, soften the knees a little bit. When you can't go any further from your spine, see if you can let that pelvis tilt forwards around your thighs a little bit. You want to just shake the head, swing the arms a little bit, give them a shake. You can do, but keep that centre strong. Breath there, and then begin to uncurl and stack yourself back up again. Let's do one more of those. So inhale, chin tuck, exhale, peeling down, one vertebrae at a time. Soften the knees if you need to. Keep the tummy scooped. Let the pelvis tilt forwards around your thighs. Shake the head, swing the arms. And then when you're ready, strong centre, begin to uncurl from that tailbone, low back, mid back, upper back, neck and head, and growing tall from there. So for the next bit you can stay seated, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm in shot, so I'm going to just perch here, and we're just going to do an arm circle. So stacking up really tall, and you can inhale, float the arms, and exhale, just semicircle the arms out to the side. So inhale, float the arms, and exhale, semicircle them out to the side. So we're not changing or disturbing the position of your spine. It's just a nice open circle of the arms, keeping that length through your neck. And then you could either be seated or standing for the next bit, which is your neck stretch, which you'll be familiar with if you come to my classes. So shoulders level, opposite hand to opposite shoulder, length of the neck and chin tuck, and that if you were standing, that free arm could just dangle down by your side, and just tilt your head away from your hand. And then maybe turn the head to look towards that bent arm. Just a few breaths in there. And then unravel back to the centre to stack up. Other side, so try and keep the shoulders level, opposite hand to opposite shoulder. Lengthen the neck, so that slight chin tuck. Tilt your head away from your hand. Maybe turn your head to look towards that bent arm. Just a few breaths in there. Start to slow the pace of your breathing down. And then unravel to face forward, stacking up, and then do shrug or circle the shoulders. And thank you very much for joining me. I hope it's helpful just to keep your movement going at home and to keep us all moving and feeling better. But thank you for joining me, and take care.